Folks, welcome back. This is going to be episode number 5 of the Marion Street Capital podcast called Beyond the Inflection Point. With me today is Matt Pincus. Matt is a second generation owner of Pincus Elevator, which is now going or transitioning to a third generation. And we'll hear a bit about that today. Matt, why don't we start off with your background? You're the first family business that we've had on the podcast. Did you always know you wanted to go into the family business? At what point did you think about doing that? Give us the backstory here.
So it's an interesting story. So I knew at 8 years old, this is kind of a funny story. So my father got out of the World War II, was in a program where he learned to become an elevator mechanic. So in 1953, he bought this guy's maintenance route for $210. And it took him 2 years and a month to pay it off at $10 a month. So just think about that. Today, we're going to buy a business. For $210, we'll open our wallet. We give the guy the $210 and we own the business. So and that's 1953. So I was born in 1960. And I knew it when I was 8 years old. I used to go out with my father all the time on a job. My father had a small business. It was him and one other guy. And it was pretty much his whole career. That's how the business was set up and how he ran it. I remember going with, I loved it. I just loved the machinery. I loved everything about it. And my father also was an electrician. He did a lot. It was called Pincus Elevator, an electric company back then. He did a lot of electrical work, and he worked in factories where he did machine maintenance and things like that. So in high school, I really wasn't the kind of student that was tracking for college. So in ninth grade, thankfully, guidance counselor told me I should apply to vocational school. So I went to vocational school for industrial electric during 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And then when I got out, I started working with my father. And then in 1985, my father got sick, had a bad heart attack, and I ended up buying the business. And it was me, my father, and one other guy. Then my father was out of the picture, and it was me and one other guy. And then I kept that way for 9 years. And my wife, I got married. My wife really pushed me to grow it. So I became me and a couple more guys. And then it was 12. Then it was one time 50. And it was down lower and in between that. So I'm at 32 people now. And we're thankfully in our third generation. It's incredible. It's an incredible ride.
Okay, so you bought the business in 1985. I think you said you were born in 1960, so you were 25 years old when you bought your first business. Okay. And who did you buy it from?
So I bought it from my father. My father had a sole proprietorship. And I bought it, incorporated it, and I had siblings. And it's funny, I have 3 brothers and a sister. My sister never worked in business. My other 3 brothers had worked in the business. They didn't want any part of it because they only saw it as what my father had. They didn't see themselves being an elevator mechanic. I always pictured myself as being an elevator mechanic. So I wanted to buy it because I didn't want my siblings saying anything. I overpaid. I paid a lot for the business, a lot more than it's worth, and I gave my father a lifetime salary, all these things. I was really happy to do it. And I didn't know anything about business. I had no clue. I didn't know zero about business. I didn't have an idea how to do anything. And I got thrown into this thing because, he had that heart attack. And I was planning on leaving and going out to Montana to become a furniture maker. I was going to go to school to learn furniture making. And this changed my plans because my father was a great guy. I loved my father. He was a people guy, really, really great guy, but we didn't work well together. Like, we had different
I know that feeling. Yep.
We had totally different philosophies. My father loved the independence of owning a business. And he would talk to customers for 45 minutes. When I would say, why are we talking to customers 45 minutes? Let's just tell them what we did, get out, get to the next job because we have to bill for this. That's how we make our money. My father never made a lot of money doing the business. So I just couldn't. It was tough for me. And I wanted to go do something else and try something. Thankfully, furniture makers don't make a lot of money. And thankfully, it turned out the way it did. But it was a good deal for my father. It really worked out well for him. It was good for him to retire. He had worked enough, and I just was such an incredible learning experience. The mistakes I made, and I made every mistake you could ever want to make, and it was and I learned from it, and it was, I think that might have been a very important aspect of my business career, was making those mistakes.
So we see that all the time amongst our clientele, amongst communities that support young and growing businesses, this philosophy of fail fast. Don't be afraid to fail, right? But what maybe doesn't get as much attention in that sort of philosophy is, okay, yes, fail fast and don't be afraid to fail. But once you've failed at something once, learn from it and try not to repeat the mistake, right?
Yeah, that's our philosophy. Like we have, like, and now, because we're such a mature business, we have philosophies in place, we have procedures and policies in place. But it's okay to make a small mistake, but don't ever make it again. But when I was starting out, I made the major mistakes. Like, something could be like, I ordered a door, like in elevators, doors are handed left or right. So I'm running around because I'm doing everything. I'm doing every piece of the business. And so instead of ordering a right-hand door, I order left-hand doors. They come in, they don't fit. That's a major mistake because they take 12 weeks to get them. And you have to be done the job in 2 weeks. So now what are you doing, right? So it's, you learn how never to make that happen again. Once it happens once, you never want to do it again. So you put that procedure in place, you learn. And we're pretty good about our employees now. If they make a mistake, that's fine. As long as they learn from it, don't ever make it again, we're okay with that. And we don't want it to be our main philosophy and how we train or how we learn, but we're okay with that as long as you own up to it.
Yeah. So now Pincus Elevator has a third generation in the
Yes.
mix, right?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I think Emily, my daughter's name is Emily. I think she's been here 8 years. So she got out of college, finance major, was working for J.P. Morgan, the big bank, and I don't know. I came to her one day and said, "Listen, my wife was working in the business. She worked with me for 30 years. She was a big part of it. She ran the accounting, finance, all that, collections." And I said, "Listen, your mom wants to retire. Uh, you know, think about it. I'll give you 6 months to think about it. And after 6 months, I won't ever bother you again. I don't want you to feel obligated. There's no obligation." So I think she pretty much took almost that full 6 months, and she said, "Listen, I have to make a decision in JP Morgan. Am I going to go, stay where I am or move some other place? And I'll give it a try. I always go back here if it doesn't work out." So here it is. She started out, she took over my wife Gail's job, taking over the billing, collections, working with the accountants, doing all that stuff, the finance stuff, and she was really good at it. And so in 2017, it's kind of interesting. 2017, actually a year before that, I put together a business plan where I wanted to kind of step back a little bit from the day to day. I didn't want to run the day to day, so I went out and hired a like an operations manager, and he eventually became president, took over my position as president. I became CEO. And in last year, it's almost a year and a few months ago, he left, and Emily assumed his role. So that's how she's got promoted to running the day to day. So she was doing a very good job. And my old president pretty much ran the day to day. And she reported to him, not to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the president reported to me. So now Emily reports to me, and she has all the other departments report to her. And it's been a big learning experience. I'm not saying it's been easy. It's been challenging, especially for her. She's only 31. We talked about this earlier. She is a woman in a male dominated industry. There aren't many women in the elevator industry, and even in the construction industry. Like, we belong to an organization called BIA, which is the Building Industry Association for Philadelphia, these old developers in Philadelphia. She goes to a meeting there, she's typically sometimes the only woman in the room, and it could be 50 guys there, but she's learned to be part of that organization. She's learned to navigate. That's really important, and she's learned to be a force at our business. But is she making mistakes? Of course. So it's been that's a challenge for us. It's been challenging, and we're working through it. But I'm in the background, and I'm not stepping on it. So the one thing I can tell people is that in a family business, you have to give your kids the opportunity to make the mistakes, grow, prosper, or if they're not, you'll know within a few months if they're right for the position or not, and you can make that move. That you can find, like, this child of mine is not the right person. I have to get them out and get somebody else in here. So you have to be willing. You have to be willing to do that, because the business. It's important. The business has to come first. It's not you're going to leave your child because they're doing a horrible job and let them ruin the business. That's not what you want. You want the business to be successful, and especially in the third generation, that the fail rate is so high. Even the second generation, the fail rates are high, and you want to maintain that business. Is very, very important. And customers want to know that when they hear about the transition, that it's going well, and that things are improving, or if they were or staying on the same level as they were, if that level was very high. So it's very important, and I think we've done a good job of that. I think we corrected some of the issues that when she first took over, and we've developed a way to handle that now, which has been good for her. It takes some of the stress off of her, and she has the ability to use my knowledge of my 48 years in the elevator industry and 40 years of running a business. So it's been pretty exciting. I'm very proud of her, and still, I think she's going to be a force in this industry. You know, in the next few years, she's really going to make a name for herself. And because our business is strong. We're 71 years in business. We have a good reputation. You don't stay in business 71 years unless you're doing something right.
No kidding, especially with an event like COVID. How did you guys handle that?
So I think we were one of the lucky businesses, because when Pennsylvania came out with what were essential businesses, elevators weren't on there. So every elevator company in Pennsylvania lobbied to get us on it. We were essential because even though you were kind of locked down in your apartment or your home, you needed elevators. You had to get down to the laundry, you had to get out to the store, you had to do that. So we were able to maintain, and then a lot of these construction sites that we're working on opened up after a few months, and we didn't lay one person off. We didn't lower anybody's salary. We were working remotely, our office staff and management staff, and we had maintenance. We were allowed to do maintenance, so we put our construction guys on doing maintenance. So so it really worked out. It was our goal. We didn't want to let anybody go. We had a really good team, and we didn't want to lose that team that we had. So it worked.
There's something to be said for that characteristic that seems to be more endemic to family businesses than say investor-backed businesses, whether it be venture or private equity, lenders, where they're often very quick to fire almost out of necessity, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we're in a privately owned business. We can decide, how profitable we want to be through a pandemic, and like, we didn't feel it would be right. We also have a philosophy that we're family. We're all family that are in the business, right? We don't want anybody to lose their job over something they can't control. And when we were just at the beginning of this thing, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought, okay, they're shutting everything down for a few weeks. Everything will be up and going in a few weeks. So they're going to get control of this thing. Who knew it was going to be whatever it was, 9 months or however long that a lot of this went on. But we were one of the lucky businesses that we were able to have our doors open, because they allowed certain precautions on construction sites. They allowed us to go into buildings to do maintenance, because we really weren't interacting with people. We were going in, elevator machinery was typically up on the roof or it's in a basement. So we really weren't interacting with anybody. And when we're in the shaft, we're by ourselves. So and so we were allowed to do some of these things. And it's funny, and our sales stayed strong. Even our sales guy were doing very well. They were
Mhm.
selling work because uh, people were in these. We're about 85% of what we do is in the apartment market. I've been very strong in the apartment market for a long time, since 2008, when we really got into the apartment market in a big way. It's kind of sort of recession proof. It's a great space to be, because you think about apartments. Even in the pandemic, apartments were so important. They
Mhm.
were booming, and they needed us to make sure that we maintained the elevators, and then we were getting a lot of renovation work because everybody was competing. Rents were up, and people were competing. It was a really good market, a good time for owners now to say, listen, let me spend the money and renovate, because they didn't. It just worked out, and we did a lot of that renovation work, and we were lucky enough to be able to do that, because again, we were isolated from the tenants when we were doing that work, working in an elevator shed, working in machinery, working in a basement. We weren't having interaction during COVID. And we came out of COVID pretty strong, really financially strong. We did take part in that PPP loans. I mean, I think
Mhm.
there wasn't a business that I know that didn't take that was able to do it. I mean, maybe a little, but we came out of it in a good position because we were able to maintain what we're doing. Were we as profitable? Maybe not. If it wouldn't have been the pandemic, we cut profits because we were offering things and doing things that guys that weren't making, wasn't billable hours. We have maintenance contracts, and somebody on a maintenance that's supposed to be construction on billable hours, you're not making any money, but you're keeping them working, and that was the key. We want to keep everybody going, and there are some weeks we might not have worked a full 40, but we paid everybody for a full 40.
Mhm.
We just didn't want to lose that team, and I think that for us was really important. I think it really helped us going forward, especially over the next 5 years. The past 5 years, it's been really, our employees saw what we did. The word gets out on the street. You got to come work here if you're good. If they know another elevator mechanic, or they have an entry level helper that wants to come in, these guys are saying, you got to come. Matt takes care of you, man. He's done. No matter what happens, he's going to take care of you if you do a good job for him. And I think that's been a key too. You have to develop that, and it's not something that happens overnight. It takes a long time. I've always been that way. I get criticized a lot over my whole career for being a little too nice, and
Who criticizes you?
not being more of uh harder person, and I let employees sometimes, letting employees get away with things that other companies don't, but in the long run it's benefited us tremendously, because we're able to find really good people, and we're flexible, and we believe that you should be home with your families. We believe those things are important. Not It shouldn't be that you're on call all the time. We want you to be home with your family if that's what you want. If you don't, if you want to work all the time, we'll keep you working all the time. We'll give you as much overtime as you want. Whatever you want to do, we'll do it. So we're
So
very
this,
flexible.
yeah, so this is a super important point for a business like yours, because you mentioned you knew at an early age that you weren't likely going to go to a traditional college. You went to a trade school, and you were most likely going to pursue the path of a family business. I feel like I used to teach college finance. I taught for 6 years at my alma mater, and I taught plenty of students who might have been great people, but they were not ready for traditional college, or traditional college was not a great fit for them. And for some of them, I felt like, maybe a trade school would have been a better fit. And what is this country going to do in 20 years if nobody wants to go learn trades?
So it's a good point. There is a shortage, and a shortage in every construction field. But there is a group of us, and it's all over the country, and I would say it's a pretty large group. We're promoting uh, in high school and even in elementary school that the construction trades are a very viable path for a good career. Because I would say that you can come out of high school into the construction trades and make well into the $20 an hour. And then when you achieve your 4 years of training, you can sometimes make well over $100,000. Think, like, we've done some research. You can come out of college with, I don't know, with some kind of computer degree, and you come out of, I'll say Temple because my daughter went there. And it's a great school. I'm not trying to demean the school, but you come out and sometimes you end up with a job that might dead end at 75, $80,000. You're sitting at a desk, you're typing all day long. For some people that's great, but in the trade you have the opportunity that once you make your achieve the apprenticeship, I mean the mechanic level in our, if we call elevate our top levels mechanic level. And once you achieve being an elevator mechanic, you still have the opportunity now to become what we call an adjuster, or you become a field supervisor, or you can move up eventually in your career to sales or project management. So there's a lot of opportunities where you can really, there's a kind of a vertical ladder. It's not like you're sitting horizontally in certain positions like you get in certain companies, big companies. It's hard to move vertically. You only can move horizontally. In the construction industry, companies don't want you to move horizontally, they want you to move vertically. They want you to become the number one guy. They want you to train the next person. They're willing to pay for that. And because it's there, it's available. So we just have to educate kids that not everybody's going to go to college, and there are other opportunities. And I think we're doing a good job of that. I mean, part of the problem in Pennsylvania, the apprenticeship ratios in Pennsylvania aren't very good. It's a 4-to-1 ratio. You need 4 journeymen to 1 apprentice. When all the states that surround us, like New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, they're all 1-to-1, 1 apprentice to 1 journeyman. So they're going to be, I think people are going to be more apt, or companies are more apt to move to those states. When Pennsylvania would just make a change to that law, and it's a law's been on the books for, I think, the 60s, what would help us tremendously too. We'd be able to train more people and have that availability. But we have something called, our company has something called the Certified Elevator Technician Program. It's a 4-year program. It's run through our National Association of Elevator Contractors. We participate in that, and that's like the gold standard training program for elevator mechanics in the country, and we're part of that. And we've had a lot of people that have graduated from it. And everybody that works for us has to go into that program within 6 months. You must start getting your books and enroll in that program and start doing it. And we would like most guys, it's hard for most guys to get done in 4 years, but between that 5-year period they typically get done. I've had a lot of guys that have got done in 4 years, or some in record time. Some get done early, but they have to wait because the hours don't allow it. But again, another thing that we've learned too that's important, that we learned that a lot of our employees in the field are visual learners. They're going to trades because they have some kind of learning disability, like ADHD, or they're dyslexia. Like, I'm dyslexic. I didn't realize until I was in my 40s. I got diagnosed in my 40s.
Wow.
And that's why school was always a challenge for me. I'm a really good visual learner. And then it opened my eyes, and doors got open. And then I sort of realized that, hey, a lot of the guys work for me are visual learners. So you have to make sure that if you're in a business where your people or basically, typically in the trades, they're not going to college because they're having a tough time with school, and they're going to have something like that. And you have to be able to say, okay, they're not going to learn from a book very well, but they're going to learn visually well because they have that aptitude. Typically, you have aptitude to learn visually. So you have to adapt, and we figured that out. It's been very important to us, and we're always conscious of that when we hire somebody or with our existing employees. I think it's key. It's a key element.
So Pincus Elevator can hire a high school graduate. He can start working with you. He can pursue a 4-year certification. It might take longer than 4 years, but he can get essentially an equivalent of a 4-year degree that has a very practical application, can get a pretty significant bump in pay through the course of achieving that certification, and essentially be indispensable to your company from that point forward, and have no debt.
No debt. We pay 100% of the cost of that training.
Wow.
And they can take it anywhere. Even if they complete it in 4 years and a year later they leave and they want to go out to live in Arizona, they could take that with them, and that certificate is always going to be there. Yes, there's a continuing education part of it. They have to get eight, I think it's eight, I can't remember if it's 8 or 10 credits a year, and there's courses, we provide those courses, again, no cost to them.
Mm-hmm.
And we typically do it on our time. They're not doing the extra credit, that credit work on. We bring people in and bring them in for a day and get the credits. And basically the only thing on our course, they have to do some online work at home. Like they have to log on at home for a couple hours every week or whatever it is. And then everything else we do in house, or the testing's done in house on our time. We're paying them to take the test. So like we do it, we don't want them to really incur anything or have to come in on a Saturday or nights or weekends. They just have to do the work at home that's required.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that 99% of them do it.
That sounds like a pretty compelling proposition for somebody that just isn't wired for reading lots of textbooks and writing lots of reports for years and years on end.
No. I will say that our National Elevator Association was very forward thinking. There was a group, I think it was 20 some years ago, that started this. I wasn't involved in the initial aspect of it. I have been involved in some of the testing and that part of it recently in the last 15 years. But they were forward thinking, and they realized that we needed to have a program that wasn't union based. That was a program other than the union. There was another program out there that any company that was union or non-union could participate in, and they were very forward thinking. And this thing has really exploded in our industry. And there isn't a company that I know of that doesn't participate in it. Even for the resident, we don't do residential elevators, we don't do commercial, but the residential, they have a residential certification that's only a 2-year program, and and it's great. And I have a certified, I can't remember the name, certified residential tech or whatever it's called, but they were really forward thinking, and they keep improving the program and keep making it better. And every company does it differently. There's companies that charge their employees to be part of the program, or they have to sign a waiver. That if they don't complete the program, they have to reimburse the company. We don't do anything like that. We've decided that there was no point in that. We figured that if we hire right and get the right people, they're going to want to complete the program. So it's been a really bonus. And one is we develop our own technicians. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been just incredibly helpful program, because it helps us with, we know that every year we're going to have a certain amount of guys that are going to become elevator technicians that are going to promote to an elevator mechanic. And we know that we don't have to go out looking for them, which are almost impossible to find on the street. We're developing our own.
We've become big proponents of that model where you hire for attitude, you hire at a lower level of experience, and then you kind of train them in-house. And it's just really enlightening to see what someone with an enthusiastic kind of can-do attitude can accomplish when you give them the tools they need to succeed, and then just get out of the way.
Yeah, we're just, listen, I would recommend this for any company. I don't care if you're doing what you're doing, Sean, or what I'm doing, that we have I think it's 3 or 5 questionnaire that when they come in for initial interview, because those 3 or 5 questions are aptitude questions, because we need a certain aptitude. If they're unable to answer those simple questions, then we know that person might not be the right person for us to even want to bring in for a second interview. So it's key that you're testing for whatever those 3 or 5 key aptitude components are.
Yeah.
And now it's not easy, because sometimes some people are just really bad at any kind of test or any kind of questions, and sometimes you might lose a great person. But we've found that aptitude testing the aptitude at that stage has been very helpful to us because we know that they're the people that are going to complete our training program, that they're going to have an understanding of math and be able to read a tape measure and a ruler and these type of things. So it's really important. Like we have those type of components that are important. We need to have an electrical aptitude. A lot of what we do is electrical wiring and troubleshooting. We need somebody that can understand that. And there has to be a sort of a math component. Not a lot of people are good at math.
No, that's true. Or at least they don't believe they're good about.
I don't believe they're good, but you know, it takes a certain aptitude because when you're doing electrical work, you have to understand the math. But these are the kind of things that we do that they're simple, very, very simple. And we do them. I don't know. I don't think I invented it. I probably learned it from somebody, but again, you got to play it forward, right? So I would highly recommend that any company be doing these aptitude tests at the initial interview.
Makes sense. All right. So Matt, clearly you figured out how to manage the labor scarcity challenge. Talk to me about competition. We worked on actually two exits for the same elevator company. Through that engagement, we learned that the elevator business, at least if it's well run, can be an excellent business. What is competition like these days in your market?
It's extremely competitive, and it's extremely competitive for a couple of reasons. We call them the big majors like Otis, Schindler, ThyssenKrupp, Kone. These are there's multinationals. They're all over the world, and what they want to do is sometimes they come up with a product like an installation product for a new building, and what they do is they want to control that market, so they manufacture it. They can put it in for next to nothing, but it's a very highly proprietary piece of equipment, and they know that once the building's built and the new owner takes over, or whoever's having the elevator built has to maintain it. They know they're the only ones that can maintain it maybe for the next 5 to 15 years. And they know that so instead of charging, we'll say $200 a month for maintenance, they're charging $800 a month. So they make their money back on it. Then that's a challenge for us right now, right? That's what these competitors are doing. And we're unable to do that because we're buying from independent manufacturers, which is non-proprietary. That means anybody can service it. And we're big proponents of selling only non-proprietary equipment, and it costs a few dollars more. Even so, if Otis or Schindler was to buy non-proprietary for these shops, they'd be at the same price we are. But they don't do that, and it's very, very challenging. And so we sell on this non-proprietary pitch, and it's been very successful. Not everybody buys it. Some people are very, it's about, they write out a pro forma in a sheet, and then it has to pencil out to a certain number. And if our number doesn't pencil up, there are a lot of owners that are like a family-run business that only want non-proprietary, and they want us in there. So they're willing to pay a few dollars more because they know in the long run, because they're long holders of the buildings, they're going to make out okay and do very well on it for the next 20 plus years.
So I saw your website, and that part of your messaging really stood out to me as kind of a key value proposition for your business.
It's definitely a key. It's a very big value proposition because there's the issue with proprietary that some of these companies sell is that if they decide 3 years after they installed it that they no longer want to manufacture that controller or that door operator, the next thing you know, you have an obsolete piece of equipment after 3 years. I can almost tell you that in 25 years, I'm probably going to still be able to get parts for that same door operator, or controller, in 25 years. It's just, that's the difference. And the owner can buy parts if he wants to buy them. If he wants to maintain his own, he can go out and call these companies, they'll sell him the parts and he can buy. So there's a big difference. And that's what it's about. It's about, they control the cost. But when you have proprietary, you don't control the cost. You're at the whim of whatever's going on. And it just is very, very challenging.
That type of pitch has worked for some financial services firms that present themselves as independent, not selling
Right.
financial products that are proprietary to those big banks like JP Morgan or some of their competitors.
And
If done right, it could certainly work.
the one other thing about our industry is that the private equity has moved into our space,
Mm.
and they were on a buying spree. They pulled back a little bit now, I think, because of rates, interest rates, and things like that. But they were buying, and now they're putting together these independent, private equity companies that are these now large corporations. And instead of they're buying these family-run companies, instead of these family-run companies now, giving great service. You used to call and used to be able to get the owner or the son or daughter on the phone. Now you call a call center and it's hard to get service. So I think that's another competitive advantage of ours. Like when you call our office, you get a live person. When you call our after hours, you get a live person.
Mm-hmm.
We've maintained that. So you're not going to a call center, you're going right to our office or right to our answering service, and answering service can get the on call or whoever you need almost within 5-10 minutes. We're going to call you back. And I think that's a big competitive advantage of ours, that we've maintained that. Does it cost us? Yes. We have a person answering the phone all day instead of a call center, which is just kind of an automated system. We don't do that. But it's paid dividends for us. I would never, ever stop doing that. I just
Yeah.
think it's that important. But everybody has a different opinion about it. But for me, it's been part of our success.
Uh, it makes sense to me. I mean, every business has to find its strengths, right? And it sounds like that's certainly one of your strengths. Now, I'm sure you guys have been approached by private equity in the past. But what's your attitude toward that whole dynamic?
Uh, we've been approached. It seems like every week I get approached because it seems like it's a different entity, someplace. But we're just not interested. We like what we're doing. We really feel like we can maintain, longevity. Emily into the third generation's doing a very good job. There aren't, like I said earlier, there's challenges, but I think we can maintain a very high level going forward. And I think we can grow the business. We're looking really to grow the business organically. I
Hmm.
mean, she has goals that she wants to increase, the maintenance and repair work and modernization work, which are our three most profitable disciplines. And our new construction's doing very well too. Even with interest rates, we've gotten some work, and it looks like we're going to pick up even more this year. We had almost a record year last year in new construction, but this year it looks promising over the next couple of months. A couple of big projects coming, so we feel we can maintain that. And there's these independent vendors that are willing to sell us the latest and greatest in technology. So we're competitive when it comes to our against some of the other companies, the big majors and some of the other larger independents. We're competitive because we're buying the latest and greatest in technology. We have the availability to do that. So it's very viable. We have a good team. Our CET program helps us, keep that pipeline of workers coming, highly trained. So there's a lot of positives. I don't, if I wanted to cash out, yeah. If I was ready and I didn't have Emily taking my spot, maybe I might think about it. I would recommend, I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at it,
Hmm.
but we're happy with where we are right now, and we like what we're doing. And and we plan to just keep pushing that forward in the future.
What's your view on the whole tariff situation? How's that impact a business like yours?
It's we don't like it, so it's affected us a little bit. But we import one of our products from this BTS company. Part of it's made over in South Korea, and then we have another product through another company called Alliance that's called the Edge product. It's part of that's made in Italy. So I mean, even I know he negotiated with the European Union yesterday for 15% tariff, but still, I don't think we were paying a 50% tariff before this. So, right, the cost is going to go somewhere. It's unfortunate. And I don't know if the manufacturer will pick it up. I don't know if we're going to eat it. I doubt we'll eat it. But we had done a study, and we thought that tariffs would only affect us maybe 2 to 3%, 2.5 to 3% this year.
Hmm.
And we might be on that track, because you remember that the equipment is only one aspect of our job. So if the equipment is, well, whatever percentage, it's 30 or 40% of the job, the rest is labor, the rest is some subcontract or whatever. So it might only end up being a cost increase of that. And that's what we're hoping.
Mm-hmm.
We're really working hard to keep costs down and use some innovation and to get more efficient. We had a big discussion today about that, Emily and I and our team, about communication and really getting we're seeing getting better at the communication part, because we're looking to cut hours off stuff, not, and then hours sometimes can lead into days, and days mean that's cost savings for the customer,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes us more competitive. And so we're really working hard, especially on the communication aspect of what we're trying to achieve right now. And I think, you can always work on communication. I don't care how good you are at it, you can always get better.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Matt, maybe a couple more questions for you before we wrap up here. So you highlighted a number of challenges that face not only your industry, but also your business specifically, and this kind of ownership transition dynamic. If you had to pick one, what would you say is the biggest challenge right now for Pincus Elevator?
The biggest challenge right now for our company, Pincus Elevator, is that the transition of Emily from the CFO into a president slash CFO role. She's doing a lot, and I think that if we would have maybe thought about it a little more uh, and planned a little better, we might have made sure that she didn't have that CFO role attached to that. Because there's so much goes on when you're running the day to day. You have every department: construction, maintenance, service, sales, everybody reporting to her. And then also, she has to go out and collect all the money. She has to pay all the payables. She has to now deal with the accountant and taxes and returns. And so it puts a lot on her plate. And I think that she got focused on a couple things, and a couple things dropped through the cracks, and it was very stressful for her. So what we've instituted is that we have a staff meeting every Monday. We call it it's her she calls it her president's meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And they come, and everybody gets in the room, and they give a report, and then she talks, and then I typically listen in, or if I'm in town, I'm in the room there. I don't say a lot, I just make a couple comments, and then after that we meet. Emily and I meet for what we call, I guess she calls it the CEO conference or CEO meeting. We meet, and then typically it could sometimes it lasts 10 minutes, sometimes it lasts 45 minutes. And I just ask her, like, what can I help you with? And so she tells me what's going on, and she doesn't whitewash it. She doesn't, she just tells me how it is. I'm having trouble with this. I don't know what to do. Or I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And I say, that's great. That's exactly what you should do. And we go through it, and we talk about the ARs, we talk about payables, we talk about sales, we talk about customers, we talk about uh, getting pipeline of work, everything. And sometimes she says, I don't need to talk about that today. I got that under control. And so the meeting shouldn't be long. It should be quick. And what happens is it's taken a lot of stress off of her. We've turned things around from where things are falling through the cracks with a couple of the big items. She's turned it around in a very short period of time, talking about within a month or two. So it's important. Again, communication is the key. We weren't really having that communication, and we're really pushed these things. And then she has somebody she could bounce stuff off of. And we know that every Monday at 10:30, we're going to meet either in person, Zoom, or on the phone.
I want to sneak another question in here related to that. If you had to offer one piece of advice to anyone in our audience working in a family business, how would you advise them to manage working with a child or a parent? It sounds like you've been on both sides. It sounds like you've got a very constructive relationship here with Emily, as opposed to, kind of a more challenging relationship working with your dad.
I think the most important thing is to not put somebody in a position that they're not ready for, and you have to know that you can't. It can't be it's my son or my daughter, and I love them and I want them to be in this position because, I did it. No, it has to be the right person at the right time. I could have said that years ago. I could have told, but Emily wasn't ready, you know. So I thought she was ready at this time. But I think like I said, you just have to make sure that you're not putting too much on their plate and that their old role I think you should make sure that they don't have to deal with what their
Mm.
old position was at the company, and that they're ready. You have to watch. You have to watch everything that's going on. You have to see that you're overseeing everything. And I think at the beginning I wasn't doing that. I kind of let her have kind of free roam and let her have her space, and it was a mistake. I should have been, on more involved in everything that she was doing, and I wouldn't say micromanaging, but overseeing it and asking the right questions. And if I'd have done that, I think we would have avoided what we had the last couple of months.
It
Which,
sounds like great advice.
yeah.
So, one final question here before we wrap up, Matt. Uh, What is one thing that you would like our audience to do for you that would benefit you, your family, Pincus Elevator, and your all of the above?
Okay. So we're in the real estate space, real estate construction. So anybody that's listening that has a property management company with elevator buildings, you're developing a new property, call us. We can be very helpful. We're very competitive. We offer great service. We have highly trained technicians and mechanics. And if you want to deal with a business that you have my cell phone number. You can call me anytime. I just saw one of my customers call me during while we're talking, and I'm going to call him right when I get back. It's my cell phone number. Anybody can call me. Same with Emily. Call Emily or any one of my people. You'll have their cell phone number, and no matter what's going on, we have the answers for you. Even if you don't give us the job, we're going to give you the answers. And I think that's it. If you own an apartment building, any kind of building that's 2 stories or above that has an elevator or wants an elevator or needs an elevator, call us. We're here to help.
Matt, that personal touch resonates in a world at a time where when you pick up the phone, you're not sure if you're even talking to a human on the other end of the phone.
Yeah, it's a little scary, right?
It's a little scary. So, Matt, thank you for all of your time today. I enjoyed this conversation. I mean, I could talk to you probably for a full day or more about the business. I find it fascinating, especially third generation family businesses. I've got a soft spot for those. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate it and I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
You bet.